This is Kim Turner, and in this video I'm going to show you how to perform a VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup function, and it is normally used as opposed to a horizontal lookup function, HLOOKUP, and I'll show you how it's used to look up a value by searching for it vertically down the column. The best way to show you how it performs is to start creating the formula. So I'm going to click here in cell B18, and we're going to find the probability that a customer is waiting on hold given the number of operators that are working that day. That information is in the lookup table to the right hand side. For example, if there are 14 operators, the probability a customer will be put on hold is about 80%, so it's a pretty good chance. This VLOOKUP formula is going to take the number of operators and go over to the table and bring back the whole probability into the cell. So here's how it works. I'm going to first go look for the VLOOKUP function, go to f of x and type VLOOKUP and hit go and then OK once it comes up. And you'll see here in the dialog pop-up, it'll show you what inputs you need to put into your formula. So the first one is the lookup value, and that is what do you want to look up? And in our case, we want to look up the number of operators, which is 14, but instead of putting 14, we want to put a cell reference here, and the reference is B7. Now, I'd like to lock this cell reference, so I'm going to hit F4 on my keyboard, and what that does is it changes it to an absolute cell reference, so that if you were to autofill, that cell will never change. And then I'll hit tab. The table array means what table do you want to look this value up in? And the table is here, the call center lookup table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the range of this table by clicking on the first cell, holding down the shift key and clicking on the last cell. I'm going to look up that value of 14 in this table, and I'd like to bring back the value that is in the second column from the left. So that's what the column index number is. I'll just put a 2 there. So what Excel will do, will take that value of 14 and start to go vertically down the first column and bring back the contents of the second column into the cell. And the last thing we should indicate is the range lookup, which is, are we going to do an approximate match or an exact match when we try to find that number 14? In this case, we're going to find an exact match. So it has to be exactly 14 in order to bring the contents back into the cell. An approximate match works with ranges. So say you're working with decimals, and an approximate match would be, well, if you're in the range from 14 to 15, then bring back this value. 15 to 16, bring back that value. So in this case, it's an exact match, and the input for exact match is false. And you can see that here in the definition of the range lookup. Exact match is false and approximate match is true. So after I have all my inputs, I can click OK, and you'll see here the probability of waiting on hold is 80.32, and that is the value in the second column. That's beside 14. Now the nice thing about using cell references is that if you were to change the number of operators that day, let's say you're going to change them to 24 operators, you can find the probability of waiting on hold pretty easily. So I'll put 24, and you can see there's a less than 1% chance of customers waiting on hold if there are 24 operators. Now the other thing that you might want to put into your formula are absolute cell references here in the range. I can do that either in the formula bar, or I can go back to the dialog box by clicking on f of x and bringing that up. I'd like H32 to be an absolute cell reference, so I'll hit F4, and then I'll go into E5 and then hit F4 again. Now this is important because if you were to autofill at all, then that range of data will not change in your formula. So now it's your turn to try, and go ahead and complete this exercise after creating that formula in B18. You'll create a VLOOKUP in cell 19 and cell 21.